Another blast rocked the vessel as it soared trough space. The hard hits from a missile barrage sent the terrified passengers into the panic, but it was not enough to shake down Gonic's will and determination. Known to fly trough, the most dangerous routes the Wild Stars had to offer, Gonic had the situation fully under control, remaining a beacon of calmness in an otherwise chaotic cacophony of ship alarms, hull tremors, and panicked whimpers from the crowd. It was not his first rodeo, and the few hand-picked crewmates who flew with him had their resolves unshaken. Captain Gonic expected nothing less, and they were ready to follow him even into the abyss of all the hells of various species' belief systems. Gonic's ship, known as the Last Chance, an apt name considering the predicament they were in, was his personal flagship and at forefront of a large fleet of mismatched vessels that banded together for one of the greatest philanthropic endeavors in this remote region. Gonic and all the captains flying under him in this operation are blockade runners. In the cold, harsh reality of Wild Stars, where alien despots and tyranny reigned supreme, the blockade runners have always been one step ahead of death and destruction, rescuing civilians and refugees alike, risking their lives and their well-beings to provide hope and deliver others away from a life of chains and servitude, expertly slipping past the blockades and avoiding marauding bands. This operation, however, was on a much grander scale. With over 30 starships at his disposal, Gonic couldn't fail. He would not allow himself to fail. Countless lives of peaceful sentient beings, the most prized artifacts and art from their cultures that face extinction, and doomsday storages of their worlds that are now left in ruin, all depended on this single alien captain. But where are they heading? Nobody really knew, except perhaps Gonic himself and his most trusted. The pursuers, on the other hand, were relentless. Their determination to not allow free slave labor to escape were just as fiery as Gonic's determination to bring them to safety. Their warships, mismatched from various alien species, both produced by the marauders and stolen from others, descended down upon the blockade runners in a nameless star system. But the fleet running to their freedom kept going steady, sending their own barrages of laser fire and missiles, dropping mines in their tracks and doing everything at their disposal to slow them down. But something happened that surprised the pursuers. The refugee fleet, against all possible predictions, made a turn toward a vector the pursuers have least expected. Master, they are going toward certain death. If they are going to jump to light speed out of the system in that direction, they will simply starve. There is nothing there beyond that void. The censor officer on board the flagship of the pursuers spoke to the indisputed master of the pack, one of the infamous raid kings of Wild Stars. But the master was not convinced. In fact, it was one of the rare moments that he almost lost his composure as his black eyes widened. Raid King Sonola was someone who was well-traversed just as much as his nemesis. He knew something that perhaps currently in his system only he and Gonic knew. No, they must be stopped before they make that jump. Everyone on the bridge was shocked, but few dared question him except his own son. But father, isn't it easier to let them wander the void and then pick them off one by one as they return in search of sustenance? They can't survive out there. If it was anyone else making that protest, the Raid King would surely have put them to death as an example to others. But in a moment of softness toward his most prized and promising son, he did something very few expected of him. You do not understand. Gonic is not your ordinary blockade runner. Let me just tell you that beyond that void lies horror, an end of our way of life as we know it. That fleet must not pass, even at the cost of death of everyone on board those slave ships. Block that vector and destroy them all. The Raid King reigned supreme on his fleet. His raiders followed his orders to the letter, even if it meant death of their hard-earned spoils and waste of their ammunition. The pursuers changed their tactics from seek and capture to total annihilation, with a portion of the fleet moving to block the escape vector in the system, just as he commanded. Back on the Last Chance, Gonic was alerted by the movements of the enemy fleet by his own crew. He stared into the view screen of his bridge and clasped his hands behind his back. "So it seems that my brother knows. Pity." The sudden alerts of damage and the destruction the pursuers subjected the runaway slaves was a clear indication to him that the goal of the Raid King was not just capture, but total annihilation. After barking out a new series of orders to his crew, Gonic rushed down to the cargo holds. Eventually, when the door opened to a large chamber filled with species of different biology, creed, and age, he watched as hopeful eyes turned to him in anticipation. He did not address them, not today. He made a beeline in a rush toward the elected leader of the refugees. He knew it was a hard choice to make today, and he found it ironic that he had to give away his most prized secret so soon, and without any formal announcement. Before he even began talking, Gonic pushed a medallion into the chest of the elected leader of the refugees. "Listen to me very carefully now." The leader looked up with wide eyes at Gonic and was about to say something, but the captain quickly cut him off. "I am leaving the ship to you, and few of the most trusted to help you get where you are supposed to be. Do not look behind, and do not fear the void ahead. The star charts we have will guide you along the set of beacons toward hope. There will be food and supplies along the way, and it's going to be a long, perilous journey. Don't look back, don't return, and trust my words. When you come across the first ships and colonies, you'll see life forms you've never saw before. A civilization that values all life." Gonic nudged the medallion to the refugee leader's chest again, giving him a hint to take it in his hands. "When you find them, you likely won't understand them. Play this message recorded here. They will know. They will understand." Gonic looked up as another blast rocked the ship, more powerful than before. Then he glanced at the leader again. "Now go, to the bridge. Your people need you." Without further explanation, Gonic ran off to the hangars. While running Truff the dark corridors, a message come Truff on his communication device. "Captain, we have lost the warm shores. The entire ship, all crew and passengers are gone, sir." "Blast it," Gonic thought to himself. He didn't have time to shed a tear for species that has just gone extinct on his watch. There was work to be done. He tuned his comm device to fleet-wide broadcast. "Attention, all crews and ships. I am not going to order you to certain death. Make your way toward our final destination. Do whatever you can to get past that blockade. Do not fear the void. There is hope beyond." In that moment, Gonic never knew that his words would echo the void for millennia to come. It was terrible. The pursuers did their best to cause as much damage as they could. Gonic and some of his crew took off from the hangars in smaller vessels, pestering the pursuers and buying precious time they could. Other ships followed suit, with those most loyal not leaving their captain behind, joining in one final stand to buy as much time as they can, in the name of hope and delivery from evil. One by one, the refugee ships went past the blockade. Some were not so lucky and would remain adrift silently and forever at peace, among the chaos of warfare around them. It was hard to tell how many vessels made it Trough, and perhaps Gonic would never know the final tally of how many species were saved and how many were lost. But if at least one ship passed, he thought, then this sacrifice was not in vain. With his ship disabled, he could only stare Truff the screen view at his brother's gigantic flagship approaching, opening up one last bottle of his people's sacred beverage, the one he kept for the brotherly reunion. The ships that made it to Lightspeed had sailed for months, the first supply beacon renewing their hopes and their faith in Gonic's words. After months of traveling, The first ships made it to the promised land that Gonic kept hidden. When large metallic ships, painted with an unfamiliar emblem of myriad stars surrounded by two strange leaves, the survivors watched in dread and awe. When the massive vessels, colored in pristine steel, stopped their vessels, and when bipedal figures boarded their vessels, the terrified refugees had noticed that each was outfitted in identical uniforms, with identical emblem and identical weaponry, in contrast to the chaos of wild stars. When the refugees cowered in their vessels, the boarders had silently lowered their weapons. The leader that Gonic had picked stepped forth, with a shaking hand gripping a medallion. A holographic image appeared of a crowned woman holding a torch, and a message in language unfamiliar to them echoed the corridors. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. The bipedal creature lifted her helmet, revealing long black hair and a soft face of an evolved primate, gently extending her hand to the leader. Gonic's words echoed in the leader's mind. They will understand. And indeed, the humans understood.